in Africa, building is one of the most expensive, single largest investment you can make in your life. So if you want to do it well. Get the right professionals to do it. Just your orientation can change your energy consumption by 80%.
Usually we have the impression that in Africa we are the last to catch up when there's new technology. So we would like you to share with us what are the most transformative technologies in the architectural design space and how some firms in Ghana are taking advantage of that.
Gone were the days where our predecessors used to design on tracing paper, and now times have changed. New technologies have been introduced into the system. We now have AI with just a simple prompt. It's able to generate a number of design samples. We also now have the BIM, where architects and engineers can be in different countries and be designing together. So imagine I'm in Ghana, Accra, designing a 4-bedroom house, and my structural engineer or mechanical engineer is somewhere in China. He's able to see what I'm doing in real time. So this is how far we have come. For the surveyors, if they can attest, we now also have drones that are able to capture aerial views and able to capture like site conditions, like terrains, and are able to convert them into AutoCAD files and BIM models so that you'll be able to manipulate it. So these are all various disruptive technologies that have come into the system, which is improving the lives of architects and engineering as a whole.
Now with the advent of technology, all the developers, you see how we use computer-aided design to make sure that we do things faster. You don't need to change things on the drawing board anymore. Now you use technology to correct your buildings, and then you can see how your building will look like before they become a reality. And that's what all the exhibitors are showing on your screen. You see images of that. So technology is very important, and it helps us to do things the right way. I want to encourage everybody here to make sure that an architect designs your house.
Thank you. Generally, how is the synergy like? Do you always have to use BIM in conjunction with other tools or softwares, or BIM is enough, or you always need to blend?
It depends on what you want to achieve. But generally, you can blend any kind of technology, software once they can combine, they can interpret. That's where BIM comes in. The other softwares like the World Bank IFC software, where you design it, but you have to design it with BIM kind of software and input your building into their software. It does the calculation to show you your carbon footprint. It shows you your energy consumption. It tells you how much energy you would consume. Okay, it tells you what kind of impact your building will have on the environment. And that's good because if it tells you that you're going to produce, let's say, X amount of carbon units, then to negate that, plant 10 trees in your house. That means that using that software, you can negate the carbon production of your building, the use of your building with just the trees, so that your building becomes a zero carbon emitter. And even if you plant more trees, then of course you are actually contributing to the environment. So yes, it depends on what you want to do. If you are talking about sustainability, BIM does it. You're able to calculate everything, the material use.
For the energy aspect, there are extra plugins. We call one plugin Autodesk Insight in Revit. It allows you to, test the amount of energy or sunlight that enters into a building. So if you're designing a building, it's actually an add-on plugin. For SketchUp users as well, we have Safari. BIM is now helping to allow you to calculate the amount of energy, the amount of light, the amount of sunlight, and that the building uses. So that was just to add up to what he said. Yeah.
We're in this auditorium. Assuming light goes off and the gen does not work, what happens? You see that we cannot stay here for 2 hours. So those are the things we need to think about as people. We can have good materials. It's still technology. We can have excellent materials, locally made materials. We've not gone very far with it. We need to look at that. So we need to demystify so let us all make sure that we do the right thing with our right materials and make sure that we protect ourselves to be able to consume less energy. So let us adapt to our local ways and means so that we can be energy efficient.
What are your thoughts on the various policies or the various frameworks that are needed so that the work of architects using technology to help us design more efficient, sustainable homes?
People lack a lot of knowledge when it comes to building. Basic orientation of a building can save you a lot of energy. I have worked on a project. The client called me later. She realized that they are roofing and the access way of the building is at the back of the house. So when she realized that, then she called the right person. So everybody knows how to do the right thing. In Africa, building is one of the most expensive, single largest investment you can make in your life. So if you want to do it well. Get the right professionals to do it. Just your orientation can change your energy consumption by 80%. Just position your building in the north and south orientation.
For me, I believe in practicality, and I believe everything has to be attacked from the grassroots, which is the educational system, right? Because architects go through 6 to 7 year course training. And then if they don't get the basics right from the start, everything else goes off. So to approach sustainability from the institution aspect, I think you can have workshops. You can have, let's say, maybe companies like the Simony collaborates with Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. They can come around or collaborate with Central University to organize a workshop. Let them have practical feel or technical know-how of how these things work. Because everything will start from the architect. No matter what you end up doing on site, everything will have to start from there. So if they are trained right from the start, they get practical people, industry players coming to the school, maybe once in a year or twice in a year. That alone can set the basis for them to come up with designs that are sustainable.
You said it's really policy. Now I'll give you an example. Pozzolana first, when BRI did it, 2008, somewhere they commercialized it. It was just a matter of making a policy that, for example, every GET fund project should use, let's say, minimum 40%. So that's policy. Hasn't got anything to do with design, hasn't got anything to do with the architects or engineers. It's a matter of policy. Now, another policy example is we talk about solar panels, which will reduce electricity cost. And that's the betterment of every energy user. Okay, so if you want to give tax incentives to companies in that area, you look at the business model. It will take so many years to set up the factory, to build up people to trust the system, to trust the new system. You need to change people's perception, okay? Then they will come to break even. Before you can think about removing taxes. If you set a tax regime of tax rebate of 5 years without looking at the business model, it doesn't work. So we come to a point where something like that was tried. It didn't work, and we all knew it didn't work. Then you come to a point, say you take taxes off solar panels, but there are still taxes on the batteries. It still won't work. So it is not the designers or the professionals. I think it's really policy. Government must be determined that we want to get, sustainable stuff. So we are doing this 1, 2, 3, And if the government is not able to do that, we're not going anywhere. And let me say this to add. We have a documented case where whilst people are trying to use solar, government parties, I won't mention the names, but you're an engineer, they go around. If probably you are using a meter and you are consuming 10 units of electricity, you switch to solar, so you're using 5 units. They will come and ask you, why are you consuming 5? Because there's something wrong. You tell them I'm using solar. I said, no, there's something wrong. And they will change your meter so that you go back to, recalibrate it, you go back to the consuming 10. Now, how do you go about telling people to use solar panels when this is happening? So I don't think we have a challenge with professionals in the industry. It is policy, and we have to probably push the government to make the right policies. If you set up, your Pozzolana cement, you understand, and it's going to help us because there's going to be less importation of clinker. What is wrong with the government saying that, okay, henceforth, 60% of GET fund jobs should use it because they are using stuff from us? It's a matter of policy.
Please, my question has to do with relating details or traditional architecture using pencil, showing details, and then the modern architecture whereby we are using the beams, the CAD, and other software, SketchUps, and the rest. Also reflecting it on sustainability, I've come to realize that architects or designers have focused mainly on the softwares, which is the Revit, the CAD, and the rest, depicting the modern architecture, let's say the boxy buildings like the parapets and the rest. And as architects, I hope we all bear me out that the two enemy to the structure or a building could be the weather and then the user. Okay, relating it to the details, I realize that the new architecture style, okay, is fading the details, coping, trotting, and the rest. And as such, because this modern architecture is exposed to the weather, within a very short period, you realize that buildings are showing defects because the weather is hitting the building direct. There are no copings, and even there are copings, the direction of the copings are not well detailed. Trotting are taken out, which is making our building very high to maintain, reflecting on the new style of architecture. And I want to ask to the panelists that, to your discretion, what are your takes or what are your judgments on this to make our building more sustainable if we pay attention to these minor details? Thank you.
That is why I made a note by make sure an architect designs your house. Because people don't consult the architects for their houses, you will see some of these effects. The contemporary houses that you're talking about with the glasses at the eastern sides, most of the time, without sun shading devices, without the technical details, and then with the level of exposure, it shows how ignorant about the building we are talking about. We think about, you see, building comes in spaces. There is the functionality, and then there is the aesthetics. But people are more concentrated on the aesthetics. You haven't seen it before. Now, one of the major accidents in our homes are the tiles that are killing us in our bathrooms. Major things. Because you see, you go to somebody's house, he has smooth tiles on the compound. They'll tell you in a typical Ashanti language, "Are you ready for pie?" Yes, you baby. I could see one say, "For pie." We have been on a pair. Without the that shows how knowledge is valuable because you don't know how it is. We've had people going down with slope because of so architecture. There is a science of the architecture. So if you are dealing with your architect, make sure you let him help you with those ones, because once you do a building and it rains and you see lines walking on it, it means that your throating didn't work, because throating would drop the water off. And then the construction technologies, effectively, your first person you talk to should be the architect, and it's the last person that should hand over your key to you. You think professionalism is expensive? Try ignorance.
Yeah, let me add that when you were saying, like, because of the softwares, the detailing is difficult, I understand you. But this is where we're talking about industry and academia. I'm thinking that universities like yourself, UST, the students, and including the lecturers, researchers, you develop the models. You know, all these models, some of them are for sale on the net. But you being here, knowing the kind of things we are facing, you can develop some of these models which any BIM user in Ghana or Africa, knowing our peculiar situation, can buy and then insert it for the builder to see, you know. But exactly, you know, but also to add to what DeGraft said, you know, it's not a matter of using glass is not bad. How you do it, where does it face? You sunshade it. So the modern designs as we see around, it's not bad per se. Sustainability is not about that, or if you like, traditional buildings, about the principle of how are you affecting the environment? Are you affecting it negatively? That's number one. And then also, what are you contributing? So when you don't affect the environment negatively, and you see if you can contribute. So in the contribution, for example, you do a nice floor. Instead of using the tiles like DeGraft said, we have Alendo Group here, for example. They have a nice floor, very beautiful, but it still, you know, allows water to seep. And that's sustainable, as against tiling your floor, because we have been and all the water runs to the street. So you imagine you have 10 houses here, 10 houses here, all of us tiled, all the water runs to the street. The gutter is designed to contain X volume of water. Now we have X times 10 volumes of water coming, having problem. So it's not just about the modernness of it per se, it's the principles, and you can apply it everywhere. But I'm expecting that Amstead and others will develop some of these details and put it on the net for us to buy, to use in our drawings. Thank you.
A nice business idea.
I appreciate the fact that you were relating everything even back to academia, because I mean that's the roots. Because most of the people most of the architects now, anyways, I'm an architect, Gideon. Most of the architects now, we are products of things that we learned in school. So personally, when I was in fourth year, my dissertation was around building families for tropical plants, bedding plants, because now a lot of the software that we have, they don't have the indigenous plants that we have here. And it's serious to the extent that you design one of the buildings that I designed, the client wanted his cars, the exact same cars that he has in the model. Points to showing that we have to create realistic things that people can not just designing out of context. So how do we enforce a material like atakpami? It's a very good material. I mean, from time of old, even till now. It's funny how it's even more expensive to build with that, even when we have it locally here.
Like Architect Gideon asked. So it's actually a major challenge, because let's just say his concern is the client wanted like an Atakwame house, which the truth is, yes, the truth is designing it is not really actually even the problem sometimes. The construction is a problem. And even to encourage or get a skilled person is also another thing on its own. Just like you mentioned, what we know is the bricks, blocks. Even the bricks is, people are now, it's there. Don't get me wrong, it's there, and it's being really encouraged. But so just to summarize everything, it's all about the exposure. You first have to get people who are even skilled to do that Akwame thing, just to be able to still promote their culture. And then after that, it goes back to the schools. You can now even encourage the students to even design it. Because if I design something and no one can even build it, then I'm not being, motivated to do so. So the industry, I think, should encourage variety, if you ask me. Yeah.
And the industry is you and I. You and I. You know what you are opting for. Everybody wants to eat peacock rice. Meanwhile, there is Nana rice somewhere. Everybody wants tinted glass with 100% sun penetration, so that when your clients come, they see that, oh, you live in a glass house. It should be sustainable. It's nice, but it should be sustainable.